What's good, everybody? Welcome back. It's your boy Almighty Foil, and today we're going to be going over everything that we know about the Dreadnoughtus that's coming to Arc Extinction Ascended December 16th. As cool and useful as the Armadoggle was, I feel that this behemoth is what many survivors such as myself are very excited for. More excited than the dog, honestly. This monster is said to have beef with titans. That's insane. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start out with the dossier to get a basis of what this thing is. Wild. Dreadnoughtus was a newly discovered fossil genus in my day, named for the idea that it was so large that it must have had nothing to fear in its own time. The current species does its namesake proud, and may even be able to defy the titans ruling our post-apocalyptic world. A big believer in picking on creatures its own size, Dreadnoughtus will ignore anything smaller than a Spinosaur to focus on larger threats. It absorbs the fury of incoming attacks to charge up its uncanny element-disrupting bellow. Even then, this bruiser shows extraordinary patience, waiting until the last possible moment to come roaring back. Domesticated. Once tamed, Dreadnoughtus will gladly shoulder your heaviest artillery and carry it, and you, into battle on a platform big enough to earn that Dreadnought name. Your walking war machine will swallow boulders or cannonballs to spit back up as acid-coated ammo. That's gonna be crazy. If you're going to war with titans, it just makes sense to recruit a titanic creature with a grudge against them. Your Dreadnoughtus ally may go down fighting, but not before softening up the adversary for a killing blow. Best of luck, and give them hell for me. Let's dig into it, shall we? Like I mentioned earlier, this thing only likes picking on creatures its own size, so it won't aggro anything smaller than a Spino. And judging by this drawing, it's going to be gigantic and have beef with mainly titans. I don't know how accurate the size depicted here is, but I've done a little research to maybe figure out how large this dino will be. More on that later though. Let's keep going over its abilities. So, it's said to have an element disrupting roar, which I think will function similarly to the Arc Edition's Brachiosaurus that also has a massive roar. But unlike the Brachii, which can fear roar almost anything, the Dreadnought's roar will have a similar effect on element, potentially disrupting tech weapons and structures. On paper, this sounds like a very broken ability, especially if it works on tech generators, but let's be real, most likely won't. It will most likely debuff corrupted creatures and titans and probably stop you from using tech armor and weapons while you're affected. On top of the element shattering roar it has, another special ability is to swallow boulders and or cannonballs and spit them back up as acid coated boulders. That's going to be game changing if they can destroy structures. That reminds me of the Magmasaur. It seems similar to the Magmasaur in that it spits out projectiles like this that can destroy structures. Right now we don't know if it will destroy structures, but honestly I think it will probably. But similar to the Magmasaur, they're going to have to make the turrets shoot the cannonballs, because if not, then you can kiss any land bases goodbye. Interestingly enough, the dossier doesn't say how to tame it, so we'll have to wait until Extinction to find that out. Moving on to the render that was released in the last community crunch, we get a much better look at how this creature will look in game. We get a view of the stomach acid that will be coating the cannonballs or boulders coming out of his mouth right here as it roars at the survivor. If you look carefully in the background, we can see what the saddle will look like, at least part of it. This beast has a platform saddle just like the Titanosaur, so you can build whatever you want on it, from mobile bases to war machines. It's going to be just like the Titanosaur, possibly bigger. We don't know yet. We don't know currently if it will be a temporary tame or not, but I really hope that it's a permanent tame and not another Titanosaur situation where it starves to death after 24 hours. But saying that, if it is a permanent tame, then there's absolutely no reason to tame a Titanosaur, since this is essentially a better Titanosaur with more abilities. The main way they could balance this would be to have its stats be a lot lower than a tamed Titanosaur's massive 300,000 health pool, and to have its stomps and cannonballs do less damage to structures than Titanosaurs. That way the Titanosaur isn't completely outclassed and there's still reason for getting one. Because if this thing can destroy structures with it, it'll most likely have a stomp similar to the Brachii and Titanosaur. But if its stomp destroys structures faster than the Titanosaur, then there really might not be a need for a Titanosaur at that point. If you haven't noticed already, it has little bits of element confusion all along its body, similar to other dinos on Extinction. I think the pits will play a role in its element disrupting roar and charge up the roar, kind of like how Godzilla charges up his atomic breath. The pits might only open up when the Dreadnought is about to roar and charge up from the tail up to its body until it reaches its head and releases the mic. Which, if it does that, that'd be such a sick looking thing. I can't wait to see this thing in action. So like I said earlier, I think I might have come up with a way to get an estimate as to just how big this dino will really be. Don't take this as the final estimate though, but a rough estimate. Judging by the size in this concept art, we can see how big it is compared to a normal survivor, or in theory how big it'll be. Pretty big. And if we look at the Titanosaur dossier, we can see its size depicted alongside a few survivors. So if we scale the survivor from the concept art with the DOSSIER, we get this size estimate. As you can see, the Dreadnought is a little smaller than the Titanosaur, but who knows? They might size it up. Titanosaur going to be dethroned? We're going to have to find out in December. Concept art size may not necessarily be 100% accurate, because looking at the other concept art dinos, the sizes aren't always depicted the same. The Gigantoraptor and Yeeling are similar sizes to their in-game counterparts, but the Fasola and Shasta are both smaller than how they are in-game. In-game, these are both a lot bigger, especially the Shasta. Shasta's in the running for one of the largest creatures in the game. And here, the Dreadnought is supposed to be bigger than it, so Dreadnought may be massive. The Dreadnought could be even bigger and potentially be one of the biggest tameable dinos in the game. I'm very excited for the release of this dino, and it'll definitely be meta changing in both PvE and PvP. How do you feel about the Dreadnought? And do you think it'll be bigger than the Titanosaur? Let me know if I missed anything. Thank you all for watching. This has been Almighty Foil, signing off.